there it is. There's the FME with the 10 TADs, and the front 2 TADs are the longest, as you can tell, and they're angled. And so they got the most kind of anchorage in the bone there towards the anterior nasal spine. That's also where it's going to be the thickest, and it's going to take the most force to split that bone. They already made a cut along the mid-palatal suture. The TADs, they engage both sides of the bone, so they're bicortical, but they're really not far at all in the nasal cavity. So I guess that attests to the planning of face genetics in the lab. I wonder if they penetrate the mucosal tissue on the floor of the nose at all. Like here you can almost see it, this little white line above the TADs. It's almost like they're just kind of resting on top of the TADs. If you look at the device here, you can really see this space between the device and my palate. I was worried about that in the beginning because I have a very high arch palate, that if the device is sitting kind of like that, with all that space in between, that there would be some untoward forces on the TADs, some leverage that would kind of act against the device and maybe make, screw drag or the warping of the device or bending of TADs more likely. You can imagine just intuitively, you'd want the device as close to the palate as possible so you don't have that kind of effect going on, but it seemed to be fine in my case. And the last 2 TADs, you can kind of tell, are pretty far back. I wonder if it's in the palatine bone. So apparently your maxilla here, or what we see here, are 2 bones. Somewhere along the line of where the cursor is, the palatine bone will start. And it might be already in that bone or kind of near or in the suture. But that doesn't matter so much, I think, whether it engages that bone or not. It's just whether, the device placement is pretty posterior and you're ensuring kind of a posterior split as well. Here we can see that the TADs are pretty much skirting my septum, which is good, because imagine the TADs were anchored in the septum anywhere, then as you're expanding, the septum would drag along, and apparently the septum tends to travel to one side or the other anyways with the expansion, something that people like Shuikai and others have kind of found in their reviews of a bunch of cases. Which makes sense. I guess the septum isn't going to free float in the middle as you expand, right? It's going to remain attached maybe to one side. But this TAD, second to last one, is kind of hitting the turbinate, which I have very large turbinates, by the way. But yeah, maybe that caused that little bit of nosebleed that I had. Who knows? And then finally the axial slice. I don't know if we can tell much from just looking at that, other than that they're pretty much aligned in the middle there. Yep, interesting. So cool.